Okay, picture this. You are deep in the frozen wilderness of Canada, specifically up north, where the winters are absolutely brutal. For the native Algonquin people living way back in the day, survival wasn't a guarantee, it was a daily grind. When the snow piled up and the food ran out, starvation wasn't just a fear, it was right there at the door. And that's where things get dark. When you're that desperate, you're forced to make a choice that honestly sounds impossible. You either give up and let hunger take you out, or you do the unthinkable. You eat a fellow human being. But in these legends, if you cross that line, you don't just survive. You transform into something else. You become a Wendigo. Now, if you've ever gone down a rabbit hole watching the Legend of the Wendigo explained, you already know these things are straight up nightmare fuel. We're talking about a creature that looks like a walking corpse gaunt, emaciated, just skin and bones. Their skin is this gross ash-grey color, stretched way too tight over their frame. They've got these tattered bloody lips from, well, their specific diet, and they carry this awful smell of death and decay everywhere they go. Plus, their hearts are literally made of solid ice. But the scariest part isn't even how they look, it's the curse attached to them. The lore says that every time a Wendigo eats, it actually grows in size relative to its meal. So, logically, they can never actually feel full. Their entire existence is just this constant state of starving to death, forever craving the taste of the people they used to live with. It's wild because this isn't just a ghost story. Wendigo psychosis is a legit term used in psychology today. It describes this intense, paranoid fear of becoming a cannibal or having those cravings. In our modern world, where we can just hit the drive-thru, we don't really have to stress about this. But for those tribes facing a harsh winter famine, it was a terrifying reality where your next-door neighbor and your dinner might actually be the same thing. Alright, let's get into Kuchisake Onna. She is definitely a different vibe compared to the other monsters on this list. In most versions of the Legend of Kuchisake Onna, she started out as the beautiful wife of a really proud samurai. However, she got lonely because her husband was always away at war, so she started seeing other men in the Japanese town where she lived. When the samurai found out about this, he was absolutely furious. As punishment, he literally sliced the corners of her mouth open from ear to ear, and she died. But that wasn't where her story ended. After her death, she came back as a vengeful spirit. She usually covers her face with a mask or something similar, so to most people, she just looks like a totally normal, attractive young woman. But she's clutching razor-sharp scissors while she picks her victim. Kuchisake Onna might appear right in front of you and ask a simple question. Watashi, Kirei? Which translates to, am I beautiful? If you answer no, she kills you with her scissors right there. But if you answer yes, she removes the mask from her face to reveal her mouth sliced open from ear to ear in a horrifying, joyless smile. Then she asks, how about now? If you answer no, scream, or try to run, she will kill you just like before. And with her supernatural speed, there is basically no escape for a regular person. But here's the twisted part if you tell her she is beautiful. Despite her disfigurement, she'll use her scissors to cut in your mouth, so you match her. There are actually a few ways to survive an encounter with this creature though. You can simply tell her that you're running late and really have to get going. She will politely bow and apologize, and you can just go on your way. Alternatively, you can tell her that she looks average and leave it at that. Unlike most big YouTubers, I still try to read every single comment I get. So, let me know what horrifying mythical creatures you'd like to see the next time I do one of these videos. So, English folklore has this character named Black Annis, and honestly, she is pure nightmare fuel. Picture an old woman with a completely blue face and just a single eye. She lives underneath a massive oak tree in a cave, but here's the kicker: she didn't just find that cave, she literally carved it out of the solid rock herself using her deadly iron claws. On dark nights, she would hide up in that oak tree, just waiting for some unsuspecting kid from the nearby village to wander underneath. But if no victims came her way, Annie's wouldn't just wait around. She would actually head into the village, reach those long arms through open windows, and snatch children straight out of their beds. Once she dragged her prey back to the cave, things got pretty graphic. she would use those iron talons to skin the children, setting the meat aside to eat later. Then, she would actually sew the skins together to make clothes for herself. Now, usually, stories like this are just used to scare kids into behaving, creating that sense of paranoia. But she was way more than just a scary story. If you look into the legend of Black Annie's, people took this seriously. Houses in the town where she supposedly lived were intentionally built with tiny windows just to stop her from reaching inside. There was even a serious guy named John Heckrich who wrote a whole poem documenting everything the village knew about her because he legit believed she existed. Okay, moving on to Southeast Asian folklore, we have to talk about the Krasue. According to the stories, she is basically the demonic spirit of a woman who was super toxic in her past life. We're talking about someone who committed serious sins like infidelity, murder, or even being that person who drinks the very last of the milk. Because of all that bad karma, after she dies, she respawns as this demon. The creepy part is, during the day, she appears as a totally normal woman and walks among humans completely unnoticed. But once the sun goes down, things get wild. The Krasue literally detaches her head from her body and flies off into the night. But she doesn't travel light, she drags all her internal organs with her. I'm talking heart, liver, lungs, stomach, intestines, the whole anatomy chart just dangling right from her neck. If you've ever looked up the legend of the Krasue, you know her favorite midnight snack is, unfortunately, human flesh. She flies around hunting for unsuspecting kids, and if she can find them, she targets pregnant women because, to her, it's basically a 2-for-1 special. Sometimes, she'll even just extract the fetus and leave. It's seriously messed up. But you can actually protect yourself from this thing. People put up spiky fences or thorny plants around their houses because the idea is that her dangling organs will get snagged on them. And she has a strict deadline if her head can't get back to her body by daybreak. She burns up in the sunlight. Next up is the Vetala. If you've ever looked up the legend of the Vetala, you know these are some gnarly evil spirits from Hindu mythology. They literally haunt cemeteries. And because they don't have a physical body of their own, they hijack human corpses just so they can interact with our three-dimensional world. Once they suit up in a body, they get into some seriously messed up mischief. We're talking about killing children, driving people out of their minds, and causing miscarriages. It is absolute chaos. These spirits do all this evil stuff because they are actually tormented human souls, trapped in that gray area between life and the afterlife. They have nowhere to go unless someone performs the specific funeral rites to set them free. However, most people are actually more interested in capturing them than freeing them. Since these spirits exist outside the laws of space and time, they have this massive knowledge of the past, the present, and the future. Plus, they totally understand human nature. That makes them perfect slaves for sorcerers who want to use that power. Anyway, as always, thanks a ton for watching. I'm signing off, and hopefully, I sounded halfway smart explaining all this. Catch you in the next one, bye.